Hello, beautiful soul family. Rebecca here, your vibe mentor, bringing you another video on how to raise your vibration so you can live your best life. Let's talk today about the Monday Magic Intuitive Energy reading, my favorite day of the week. So, how's it feeling for you guys? I would say the best way to describe this feeling today is sort of a sense of time out of time, that there is a strange stillness, especially after having had an Aries full moon, which is usually very action packed and sometimes even a bit aggressive. And the energy, usually, especially with Aries energy, is pretty fast paced and moving quite a bit. But we are in, of course, an interesting date of 1010, which some would call a portal. It really just depends on how you see things. I have done other videos on the 1111 gateway, or things that people tend to assign meaning to. And it's very interesting now that with every double digit or triple digit date, we've assigned a meaning of portal or gateway. And to me, it doesn't really matter what you call it. It is the belief for us that we are creators. We are creating the Schumann resonance. We are creating the external environment in our life every day. And of course, the more emphasis we put on these dates, the stronger and more powerful they become. So you add to that, we've had the Aries full moon, we've got the 1010 date, we just had Mercury go direct recently, so we're nearing the end of that shadow phase. We had Pluto go direct as well on the 8th, so that was just a couple days ago. Now, Pluto is a very distant planet, so it can have a broader impact when you look at what Pluto stands for. It's the death and rebirth process. We are also in the US Pluto return. That, of course, is an ongoing process for many years because Pluto moves so slowly. And so, having such a high intensity or high impact planet move direct, essentially, of course, no planets actually move backwards and forwards. It's really about how it looks from the perspective of the sun, or of the earth as we move past it. But it can seemingly stand still in these moments of, changing direction. And so you have the Pluto moving direct, as well as on top of that. So it's a lot to have three planets going direct in 1 month. We also have Saturn coming up. Saturn going direct in Aquarius on the 22nd. So there's quite a bit of interesting energy to contend with, especially today when you had, the Pluto on the 8th, the Aries moon on the 9th, and then the 1010. With Saturn coming direct very shortly. Again, also a larger planet with a heavier hitting impact, and so that will also feel. They say it amplifies. We feel amplification of that planet's energy when they are moving direct. So we're getting close to that as well. So the veil is thin. There is no doubt about it. The veil is thin. Telepathy is off the charts. It's very interesting and fascinating to sit back and be present with and observe this energy, that there is a lot that can come to you, certainly both positive and negative. So we have to be consistent in our management of our emotions and our mental state, as well as our energetic vibration. I do get a very strong sense of old patterns and old energies trying to hang on to those last bits of life. Maybe things that we thought we cleansed or cleared or processed and let go of years and years ago are kind of peeking their head up out of the sand to see if there's any chance they can revive themselves. There is certainly a sense of I don't want to say heaviness or denseness, but that really is what we have been contending with. It certainly is lighter this week than it was about a week ago, and I do get the sense that that trend will continue, that we're going to see sort of some relief as we get towards the end of the month. Of course, we're getting into eclipse season very shortly in the next 2 weeks, so that will amplify things and speed things up. Eclipses, like I've mentioned in the previous videos, they're intended to make sure that, or help us get back on track for our life purpose, for whatever path we have chosen. And if we are getting off path, then that eclipse will kind of give us that bump or push to put us back on the right path. And sometimes that's not very comfortable. If you are following your guidance, if you are living your purpose, if you are living as close to the divine guidance as possible, likely the shifts and changes that will come from the eclipse will be less tumultuous, is the word that comes to mind. And of course, if we are completely ignoring our guidance and keeping our head in the sand and refusing to do the things that we're asked to do, then it can feel like a slap in the face when we get put back on our path. So we want to be careful and just be aware of the tendency to allow this old clinging energy to creep back in, to allow disappointment or frustration or the feeling of being stuck or impatience. These are all energies that are really wanting some airtime right now. They're really trying to get in strongly. I see it both in myself as well as my clients, as well as just people I'm engaging with out in the world at large. And it's fascinating to see how consistent these themes are. Talk to any therapist or coach, and you will hear a resounding yes that these energies are pervasive throughout the entire population to some extreme or another. And of course, it depends on the vibration and the mental state that you are cultivating to the extreme that you will feel these. But certainly there is, I get the strong sense of a sort of a wounded animal that's been cornered. It's dying. It knows it's dying, but it's still going to lash out. It's still going to fight for its life. It's still going to see if it can bite you one last time before it finally gives up the ghost. And so that really has a sense of, or that's how I sense this current energy, that these patterns of lower vibrational energy that are really trying to creep in. They're sort of that wounded animal that's dying. And with a little bit of effort and commitment and consistency, we can keep them at bay. We can remain in those higher vibrational states. We can remain in hope and faith, knowing that what we experienced a couple weeks ago, that high of things are happening, amazing things are happening, the evidence of the things that were happening were dancing all around us. They are still there. Those seeds were planted, and it requires patience and trust. And in fact, again, the suggestion this week is, again, rest and recuperate. Now that's going on 2.5 weeks that we've been getting this recommendation. I don't know about you, but I like forward momentum and progress, so that can seem kind of frustrating, right? If we allow it, right? If we choose to see it as stagnation or to get impatient, then it can cause frustration. If we choose to see it as a gift and have appreciation for this time to recuperate, that it is strongly suggested that this time is here to allow us to regenerate so that we are ready when the forward momentum comes. And that time is coming soon, especially with all these planets moving direct in eclipse season. It's just around the corner. I know I say that every now and then too on a frequent basis, but literally I do feel in the next week or two we're really going to start to see a pickup in the energy. So notice the void in between, and I mentioned this before, it's worth reiterating. This is where we're at right now, is the void in between this old energy that is dying and the new that has not yet emerged, that we are a seed in the dark. And the mind, the ego, can get very uncomfortable when we don't know what's coming. What's next? I really need to know what's coming next. And that seed doesn't get to see the light of day until it has pushed through the dirt. That we planted that seed a couple of weeks ago, and we got a little bit of an insider clarity around what's coming, and the excitement and the knowing that this is happening can only last so long. It dissipates. And then it becomes the time to do the work, to put your head down, to get some things done, to rest and recuperate, to trust, to manifest from that place of rest and remain in faith. Because this is the point where manifestations don't work, right? When people get frustrated and they say, it's not happening for me, I can't do this, blah, right? It'll never happen. When you start to allow yourself to go back to those limiting ways of thinking, when we start to say, it'll never work for me, it's never worked for me before, it's never going to work in the future, I need to just get used to the way life is, this is the way it's always going to be, right? We just kind of get frustrated and pissy about it, and we quit. And we build blocks, we build walls, we box ourselves in, and we cut ourselves off from the flow of the manifestation. When we resort to the disbelief and the frustration and the anger and in the little bit of a toddler fit when we're like, man, it's not working for me, we ruin the manifestation. We stop it. We prevent it from continuing to flow to us. We have built a wall between us and it, and we've said it's not happening. It's not happening. And depending on the size of the manifestation that you are working on, it takes time, and that's going to require consistent, sustained effort and focus over time. And that we can have the moments of, I'm tired, I need to rest, I'm going to allow myself to just feel this crappy energy for a day or two. But we have to pick ourselves back up and say, I don't care how crappy I feel, I still choose to believe, and I'm still going to move forward, and I'm still going to remain laser focused. And I do this because my vision boards are over here. I'm going to remain laser focused on what I'm manifesting, and I know beyond a shadow of a doubt it will come. My seed is just in the dirt right now. And that's okay. As long as we don't quit, as long as we don't choose that limiting belief or that frustration, or to let that old energy in, or to let that wounded animal that is dying somehow kill us on his way out, right? So one of the beautiful things about this number of this day, 1010, right? 10 is a number of both completion and new beginnings all at the same time. That it is wholeness, that it is a creative energy. It is the new beginning at its both the end and the beginning. And that's what I love about it, is if you look at numerology, it's usually 1 through 9. If you start to, bring in the master numbers, that confuses the whole concept that I'm trying to invoke here. But essentially, we go back to the beginning. Once we've hit 10, we go back to the beginning. And that's where we're at. We're in that void of going back to the new start of a new beginning, right? And so, again, persistence, focused, sustained effort over time is what creates. So this requires some mental muscle, right? It requires effort. It requires a commitment. And here is one of the beautiful things that my commitment to fitness has taught me, is that there can be no room, not even this much, no room, zero room for excuses, for leeway, for maybe I'll just take today off, or maybe I'll just skip on my calorie counting or my macro counting or whatever I'm doing at that time. I tend to oscillate things quite a bit. But if there is any room for error, if there's any margin of error, that grows. As soon as I say, I'll just take tomorrow off, or I'll just go a little bit lighter on the weights today, it becomes increasingly more and more difficult to show up the next time. And then the next time I want to take a little bit more leeway, and the next time I want to take it a little bit more easily, and then the next time, I'm having a piece of cake instead of, right? So I'm exaggerating really, but the point is there can be zero room. And that's where we're at right now. From a mental standpoint, there can be zero room for waffling or lollygagging are these terms that are coming to mind. Not sure where those are coming from, but to wallow, that's what I was looking for. To wallow in this self-pity of poor me, it'll never happen for me. Wow, manifestation doesn't work, I quit. There can be zero room, because as soon as we start to open the door just a little bit and say, well, maybe I'll just allow myself to feel, maybe I'll allow myself to have all these negative thoughts for a day or an hour or two, it becomes increasingly more and more difficult to get back on the track of no, trust and faith. Trust, faith, and surrender. There is no opportunity, there is no leeway allowed in distrust right now. That we have to go from a state of believing, because in believing there is still a little bit of efforting. We have to go from believing to knowing. That there's zero room for doubt when you are in knowing. That's just coming through right now. So we have to cultivate that optimism and that belief and that consistent track in your mind. So I'm sure you've noticed you can be talking to a friend and thinking about what you're going to have for lunch at the same time. We have this ability to have multiple trains of thought. And when I was asking why are we created that way? Because nothing about us is an accident. Everything is made with purpose and intention. The response was so that we can cultivate that track of belief and faith and trust and connection consistently all day long, no matter what we're doing. And so this is where it becomes critically important in these moments, because this is kind of like a test. Will you fall off the wagon? Can we pull you back down? Can we prevent your manifestation? Can we keep you stuck? Or are you going to stay in faith and trust? And I love it when they say that when you're being pulled back, you're actually kind of like a slingshot being pulled back so that you can catapult forward. And this is that moment of testing. It's like the rubber band's getting tighter and tighter. We're being tested and tested. Are you going to remain in faith? Are you going to stay consistent? Are you going to be vigilant? Are you going to be committed? Okay, really? Ready? Let's go. Right? So that's a little fun analogy. Not on the sticky note for that one. All right, let me know how you're feeling, guys. I love to hear. Everybody else loves to hear as well. We are all in this together. That's the whole entire intention of these videos, is to let you know that we are in this together, that you are not alone, that these energies are available to us all. Certainly there is always going to be a level of higher or lower of this current state relative to where you are at and the vibration you are cultivating. So let us know where you're at, what tips and tricks are working for you. And yeah, I think that's all I have for today. I love you guys. I'll see you on the next video. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Even just a little emoji comment is super appreciated and helpful for the YouTube algorithm. Otherwise, if you're on YouTube, click this button here to subscribe, or this button to watch the next video. If you're on Facebook, jump over to YouTube. See you there.